Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to today's special episode. I am Sakina Sheikh, a recent graduate from Dow Medical College, and currently serving as a General Secretary of the Student Interest Group in Neurology DMC Chapter. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our co-hosts for today, Ahmed and Javeria. Over to you both.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I am Muhammad Ahmed, and I'm currently a final year medical student at Dow Medical College, and I am serving as the lead of the networking department here at SIGN, the Student Interest Group in Neurology. And I'm really glad that you all took out the time to join us for this session, and I hope it's going to be a really productive one. Over to you, Julia.
Hello everyone, I'm Javeria Yusuf, a 2025 graduate of Dow Medical College, Karachi, and I'm currently serving as the events team lead at Student Interest Group in Neurology, DMC. Really glad to have you all here. Over to you, Sakina.
Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to share something very close to our hearts. Our SIGN-DMC chapter started as a small initiative founded by our very own Dr. Sayyida Tayyaba Rehan. What began as a vision to guide and connect aspiring neurologists has now grown into a platform where we continue to plan, mentor, and support each other. Carrying forward that same vision, we are proud to continue this tradition of hosting our Decoding Match season this year as well. First of all, congratulations to all of you on your incredible achievement. Matching into neurology is no small feat, and we are truly inspired by your journeys. And thank you so much for joining us today. This session is truly special to us because we are bringing together the incredible Dowites, the incredible seniors, the incredible mentors who have recently gone through this process and are here to share their insights, practical advice, and lessons that can really make a difference. Now let's introduce our amazing panel. We are joined by Dr. Sayyida Tayyaba Rehan, founder and the president of SIGN-DMC from the class of 2024 and incoming PGY1 at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. Her journey offers valuable insights into structured preparation, building a strong and well-rounded application. We also have Dr. Sumaya Wasim from the class of 2024 and incoming PGY1 at Trinity Health Grand Rapids. Her journey highlights the importance of clinical experience, meaningful networking, and standing out during rotations. Joining us as well is Dr. Arbab Burhanuddin Kasi from the class of 2021 and incoming PGY1 at Louisiana State University Shreveport. His journey reflects persistence, long-term planning, and building a competitive profile over time. And finally, we have Dr. Mabel Wakar from the class of 2023 and PGY1 at Trinity Health Grand Rapids, who will guide us through the program signaling, finding the right fit, and building a cohesive application strategy. Thank you all so much for being here today. We are truly grateful for your time. So we are starting today's session. Our first segment will focus on understanding how to structure your journey, from early planning during med school to making the right decisions at each stage of the med process. So starting with our first question for you, Dr. Rehan. You graduated quite recently and met soon after. How did you structure your timeline during med school to balance steps preparation, research, clinical experience? Yeah.
Thank you, Sakina. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Hello, everyone. Arbab, Mabel, Sumaya. It's so nice to see you all here. So to answer your question, so for my journey, I started quite late. I graduated in 2024, and after my final year exams, I just decided to give steps. I never planned during my med school to pursue USMLE journey. So I think it's not an ideal case scenario, I would say. I just started preparing for my step one soon after my graduation with my house job. It took almost 6 months for me to give my step one. And then I took a break for almost 1 month, and then I started preparing for my step 2 exam. And then, mean, I gave my step 2 exam also within 6 months, and then I went to US for 3 months of clinical electives. And then I took 1 month dedicated for my step 3 exam. I gave a step 3 and came back, gave the interviews from Pakistan. So that was my journey. Like, it took 1.5 years, but that's not the ideal situation. I would say if students know where they want to end up, if they are planning for USMLEs during their med school, then ideally they should be giving their step 1 in 4th year or maybe in final year, whatever the circumstances are. I decided pretty late, so that was like my timeline.
Okay. So I feel like for the graduates who feel they are falling behind or haven't started yet, what would you say to them based on your experience?
What would I say is that it's never too late. Don't think that, since you have graduated, you cannot give a step 1. I know it's pretty hard to go through all of the anatomy and physiology. It sucks. But I think you can do it. I mean, it just took me like 6 months with my house job. So I think you can do it. It's never too late. I have seen people doing it even 10 years after graduation. So it's never too late. I mean, don't give up just thinking that, okay, I graduated, so I can't give these exams, because you see a second year med student giving a step 1 and you are like, I can't give it because I just graduated. So it's not the case. I feel like it's never too late.
Yeah, getting your point. That's really insightful, Tayyaba. Thank you. Towards you, Dr. Kasi, your journey spans a longer timeline compared to many recent graduates. How did you stay consistent and continue building a competitive profile throughout the process?
Hi, everyone. Congratulations to the board. Great achievement. Thank you for inviting me. So yeah, I was the kind of person who always used to take a different route. For me, and I never started with USMLE journey in my med school. I started it late, and I gave my step 2 first, and then went on to give my step 1 because I felt I was not ready for the physiology and biochemistry stuff when I graduated. I was not ready for it. So I gave my step 2, step 1, made myself clinically relevant, did some medical officer jobs, and yeah, did some training here and there, and then eventually got a research position at MGH. And I think that's where my actual journey for neurology started. I was always interested in neurology. Neurology was the field I always wanted to be in. I always envisioned myself to be a neurologist. Although I will definitely say when I came into med school, I had to decide between neurosurgery and neurology. And I think deep into 3rd year, I got to know that I'm not the kind of person who wants to do surgery for life. So that's when eventually I decided, yeah, neurology is the bit. And yeah, for people who are still thinking about, yes, I feel there's a timeline. Certainly, there's a timeline. I think it's 5 years post graduation. I think you need to complete everything in that period. You need to give all your steps. You need to be clinically relevant. In most of the interviews that I gave, everybody was talking about the fact that what I have done post my graduation. So yeah, definitely being clinically doing research that is clinically relevant. I was told by a lot of interviewees that the research that I've done is going to help the patients that eventually when the research gets published. So yeah, so being clinically relevant is the case. Giving your steps is the most important thing, and all of your steps. Step 3 has become very important since step 1. Although its score doesn't matter, but you need to give it. At least this is something that I felt. And at the end of the day, perseverance. I think just believing in yourself and knowing that you're going to do it. That's the most important thing. And then making sure that this specialty you are applying for, your CV speaks for it. If your CV is talking about internal medicine, family medicine, neurology, and it's a haphazard CV, everyone is going to understand that you're not interested in neurology. It's just that it's like a second specialty. And the people who are interviewing us, they are way more smarter than we are. They have seen so many CVs over the years. They can know that this person is just looking at neurology as a second specialty. So yeah, definitely perseverance, liking your specialty, being able to talk about the specialty. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I got your point. That's actually a very practical approach you just mentioned, especially for the applicants trying to be strategic. Do you want to continue with your answer, Dr. Wasim?
So like I was saying, I decided on the journey pretty late myself. but the reason that I was able to sit for the very consecutive match ever since I decided was two things. A, having a very strict timeline in mind, knowing that this is what I want to do. And secondly, keeping myself a little margin here and there, but at the end also knowing my backup options. Since match is very tough and it may not work out the very right moment that you are planning. So for the timeline, knowing that I only had a year, I planned it almost similar to what the Eva did. I had like around 4 months for step one. I knew what my weaknesses are and I knew what my strengths are. Clinicals were my strengths, but step two is also slowed. I wanted to give more time to it. So that's what I did. I gave step one a little lesser time compared to that, and I knew I would be able to do that. And then I chose lighter rotations towards the end and gave my step two, and then went on for electives, for observerships. And along the observerships, since I had this particular habit of studying throughout my entire house job, I used to study during the wards, I used to study during my commute. I was able to give step three within the very strict observership timeline as well. So I gave all my exams within a year and also with jobs alongside. So I believe the only thing that helped me was knowing if you are having a bad day, you can skip it. That's perfectly fine. You're human. Just get back to it the very next day. If I couldn't do my UVER 20 questions today, I would do 60 the other day. That's non-negotiable. So for people, I have two advices. If you are in medical school, for people who are in medical school, please do not delay it. It is not going to get easier once you move across the ladder. Get done with your steps as soon as you can. Step one by third and fourth year. Step two by final year, and then sit for the match, the very next cycle that you're going to get the chance to. For the people who are like me, who decided on late, it's okay. Take a deep breath and then start now. Plan your journey, take a month or so, and then plan your journey. But be very strict about the timeline. The reason I believe people delay most of the steps is because they just keep on delaying it due to the fear of, I don't know, maybe failing the exams, which I agree is going to be there. But then that fear will always remain there. There's a 70% chance. I think for the step on the past ratio is around 92%, and then failing is around 7%. So there's always that chance, but that's very minimum. So try to stick to a timeline. And as someone who is not doing USMLEs, if you are not planning to pursue, please still do something during your medical school journey. Have things in your CV to talk about. Do volunteership, do research, do go out for community outreach. Just make the most of the time that you're going to get in medical school, because I don't think that you're going to get that particular time frame back.
Thank you, Dr. Wasim. I really like how you highlighted being intentional with your decisions, and that actually makes a huge difference. Towards you, Dr. Bakar now. Program signaling has become such a key part of the application process. How did you decide which programs to signal, and what strategy would you recommend?
Thank you for inviting me today. And so to begin with the match and signaling, I would say signaling is a very significant part of match nowadays, and especially in neurology, because we have very limited spots. And unlike IM, we do not have gold signals or silver signals. We only have like 8 signals, and that's it. That's all we have. So signaling is more like of a handshake, and so you should only extend your hand towards someone who is, more likely to extend it towards you. So you have to utilize your signaling very mindfully. So my approach was that I did not, it's very tempting that you should signal the high academic programs, which are very research rich and everything. But but my approach was that only 2 of my signals I utilized for the high academic research heavy programs. Others were more of like IMG friendly ones, where I saw the residents were from, let's say, Dow or AQH. Most of my strategy was like looking at these kind of things, that they have the IMGs from my own country, or for example the med school, like I did my internship from Afan, so I kind of had it on my CV as well. So I was looking at the alumni system from Dow and AQH primarily. Secondly, thirdly, I was like, I had things on my CV. For example, my CV was pretty clinically rich. So I was looking for programs that offered or had written on their websites that they are looking for candidates which have lots of clinical experience. Or let's say I had the kind of an experience where I had taught students for international boards and for board exams in Pakistan as well. So I had a teaching and mentorship thing on my CV as well. So I was looking for programs where they had written on their website that they are looking for candidates who want to teach, who want to mentor during their residencies. So primarily my approach was only two of my academics program were, two of my signals went to academic programs. Other went to the programs where I could see the alumni from Dow or AQH, or I could see I could see the things that I had on my CV, like teaching and mentorship or heavy clinical experiences.
Thank you, Dr. Vakar. We really appreciate your practical approach, yeah, and this is really inspiring. Thank you so much. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you. That was a very insightful discussion on how to strategically approach the journey and make key decisions along the way. Building on that, I'd like to now focus on what truly makes an application stand out. So those elements that go beyond just completing requirements and really make a candidate memorable. So Dr. Rehan, I'd love to start with you here. What do you think makes a personal statement truly stand out, and what key elements should applicants focus on, including any common mistakes or pitfalls that they should avoid?
Okay, so I think that's a great question. So for personal statement, what I have noticed in my case and in people people who are sitting in match with me, I think be very honest when you're writing your personal statement. Do not lie. Do not be like, I went there, I did this or that, when you never actually even know what that thing is. And I would suggest, do not be very, very if I'm applying for a neurology, do not show that I'm actually a neurologist, I'm a stroke specialist or something. Just be a human and tell your story. For example, what I did was that I graduated, I did my med school, I about the fun stories of my med school, and I told them about all the fun parts of my observerships when I went to US, when I came back, and not when I came back, when I was in US. I mean, I told them all the fun parts of my journey rather than telling them, okay, that, the things that I was actually mentioning on my CV, I tried my best to not repeat them or to not replicate my personal statement with that, right? So, for example, there's this one example. When I was in Tennessee, I was rotating at Vanderbilt, and I told them, instead of telling them that I was in epilepsy clinic, I told them that there were always deer outside my window. It was always raining. I was going out. I was running. I was seeing the Smoky Mountains. And, I told them the story that, okay, I was in Tennessee for my clinical observation, but I was doing this outside of my clinics, right? I was making friends. I was going to this famous place known as Stars or something, and Smoky Mountains. So I told them about every place that I went to. I went to Toledo, so I told them about the Toledo, the food. I told them about Detroit. I told them about Grand Rapids, and every place that I've been to, without telling them that what I was doing there. I did not tell them that I was in stroke clinics. I did not tell them I was in epilepsy and all, but I did tell them that I was at those places and I made friends. I tried food. I went out, and I appreciated US in countless ways. I appreciated the nature. I appreciated everything about US without making it like, okay, मैं बहुत ज़्यादा तारीफ़ें कर रही हूँ आपकी, but I did tell them that I like the diversity. I like how everything is so lovely and everything, right? So I think this is what I loved about my PS, and this is what everyone mentioned in interviews that they liked about my PS, right? Other than that, just tell who you are, tell about your hobbies. Like, I liked embroidery, I liked songwriting, I liked poetry writing, so I told them about those stuff. And other than that, I did not go into the cases I saw. I've been told about that, tell them about the clinical observership, tell them about the house job, tell them about the number of cases you are seeing and everything. But I did not do that. Maybe other people can comment better on that. But that was my approach for personal statement.
All right. So yeah, that really highlights how crafting a genuine personal statement can matter a lot. And I think it also highlights how important it is to go just beyond the basics and bring, authenticity in your application. And so building on that, Dr. Wasim, I'd like to bring you in here. During US clinical experience, what specific behaviors, approaches, or strategies do you think truly differentiate an IMG who simply completes a rotation from one who genuinely stands out and leaves a lasting impression?
So one thing that I noticed when I was sitting for my interviews during the session, I was mentioned in almost pretty much all interviews, but everyone who was interviewing me, that I had some of the most strongest letters that they have ever read. Back on that, I never understood because they were vague. But then I talked to my mentors and everyone, and they said that I did stand out when I was rotating. Now, I believe I did not do anything out of the extraordinary, and I think that is the one advice that I would give everyone. The problem is going into the depth, we all forget the very basics and the very core of going into any place, starting from finding the observerships and emailing people. When you are finding the preceptor, be very professional, be very thorough with your communication. When you are landing in the US, when you're going there, and letting them know that you're going to be in the clinic, if there's anything they want you to read upon, and all those very basic things. I know that's very repetitive and an advice that everyone gives, but the problem is I almost never realized 90% of the people, over 90% of the people never follows them. You're supposed to tell your preceptor if you are not going to join them, and you're supposed to tell them if you are not going to be available on those days, and etc. Once you are in there, the very rule that you were supposed to follow in your wards and everywhere, you are supposed to follow here. Show up your time, dress well, be thorough, go greet, meet everyone with respect. See what your preceptor is doing. If it's an observership, try not to mingle in with their work, because honestly, at the end of the day, they are doing you a favor. Just being there, you are already like taking there a lot of big chunk of their time. So do not try to make it harder for them to take someone else after you. Once you are in there, when you are doing the cases, you don't have to try to do something extraordinary. You don't have to go and read on the very in-depth of like stroke or anything. See what they are doing. See how they're interacting with the patient. See how they're communicating with the patient. Once they're done with the patient, ask them if it's a good time to ask your questions. If they permit you, then go ahead and ask 1 or 2 questions. Try to keep them to the interaction that you saw. Once you're done with the day, hand them and then ask them questions that you had like prepared from their research or from their literature or from anything that you went through. Sometimes most of the preceptors do give you a day in a week to just discuss things with them. If that's the case, you can always note down your questions and ask them over there. Another mistake that I saw people doing it, have a notebook and a pen. Please do not use your phones and laptops or your devices with them. I know that's what the doctors do in America, but you do not have access to EMRs and you do not have access to their computers. You're not supposed to take out your phones or your personal belongings over there, even if that's your questions. Just keep those basics in mind. Once you are done, thank them and ask them if they're okay with writing a letter and if they are okay with recommending you to their colleagues or just send it out on harass. Once they agree to that, then you can go ahead and send them the LOR. So I believe I did not do anything out of the extraordinary. I just followed the very basics advice that everyone tell you. The problem is we ignore them. That's the biggest problem that I have personally seen over there. I've seen people not even following the basic dress code of the hospital. If there's a dress code, you need to follow those. So stick to the basics and then you can work your way upwards. But the very core, that's going to help you get a very strong letter of recommendation. Your letter is going to literally just mention that this person has really good work ethics. This person is reliable. This person can be trusted on. You see, they know you are an IMG, you do not know anything about their system. They are not expecting you to be, like Taiba said, they are not expecting you to be a neurologist or a stroke specialist and epilepsy specialist. They're just expecting you to be someone that they can rely at 2 a.m. in a hospital when they leave their patients to. So make sure that you are covering those basics.
Right. So that really gives a practical perspective on how to make the most of your rotations. Just, be respectful, be mindful of the work ethics, and you don't really have to do anything out of the ordinary. So, right. And so taking this a step further into another key component of the application, Dr. Kasi, turning to you, you held a research position at the Massachusetts General Hospital. How did you secure that opportunity, and how significant do you think it was for your overall application?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a bit about professionalism, and I'm going to go over to my research. So I'm going to second Dr. Wasim on this. So I did my one of my observership in Carolina Medical Center, and sadly, one of our own graduates actually went on to do an internal medicine observership over there, and once it ended, she for some reason barged into a surgical operation theater and asked for an observership in surgery. What has happened now is that at Carolina Medical Center, they are not accepting Pakistani graduates anymore, especially in internal medicine. So I think professionalism is of utmost importance. They Dr. Rehan said, yes, they don't want you to be a neurologist, don't want you to be an hepatologist. You just need to be professional. You just need to tell them that the next 4 years of your life, you're going to be professional. You are academically strong. They know it. They have seen your scores. The most important thing, which I think graduates from our school or from anywhere, from Southeast Asia or anywhere, I think the professionalism is of utmost importance, and that's something that we should really focus on. Now going into my research. So the thing is, my research was based on non-convulsive seizures, and this was something that I had seen in the places that I have worked in. Something that's not cared for in our in smaller primary care clinics or secondary care clinics. And I was researching about non-convulsive seizures. So this made me reach out to my PI, Dr. Zafar, who was working on non-convulsive seizures. But it took me a whole year to make myself strong enough to make my CV strong enough so that she would take me as a research fellow. I worked on some of my data analysis techniques. I learned some software such as the software R, some other softwares. There were some the Stata software. I learned that, and there's another software as well. I don't remember it as much. So I learned that. I made sure that my CV speaks for the fact that I have done some neurology research that I can write on myself. Like the first author publications are very important. This actually speaks for you that you can write a manuscript, because at the end of the day, they want you to do their work. They want you to do data analysis. They want you to do. They want you to write their manuscript and then come up with your own ideas. Like I was very much interested in the use of AI in epilepsy. So that's something that I kept on researching on while I was there. So yeah, so I think that was the first part of your question. Was there another part of your question?
Yeah, it was like, how significantly do you think it affected your overall application?
Oh, a lot. The place that I have matched at, my whole interview was based on my research. And like I said, one of the interviewers who actually told me that the research that I have done is very much clinically relevant. He described for the fact that a lot of candidates come up with some very random research articles, such as the CDC, such as the meta-analysis, such as these. They are good for the public health people, but at times they are not clinically relevant. I mean, there's sometimes you can't even talk about how are you going to help people through this research. And this is the whole, like my whole interview was based on the fact that how I'm going to help, how is my research going to help the future. So definitely working on clinically relevant research has helped me match into this program. And yeah, it's of utmost importance.
All right, so thank you. I think that's very valuable, especially for students looking to break into research. And I think that's a great insight into how research opportunities can shape an application.
And I'm going to add something.
Yeah,
sorry. So the thing is, I'm not saying that don't do CDCs. I'm not saying don't do meta-analysis. It's the start of research. But make sure that your research, you progress through it. They are not interested in 20 to 25 meta-analysis, which doesn't speak for your CV. At least this is something that I have felt. It might be different for others. I'm just speaking about myself. 2020, if there is do one meta-analysis, learn the art, do one CDC, learn the art, and then try to publish abstracts into clinically relevant abstracts, especially into these amazing conferences. There's ANA, there was the stroke conference at, I think it was in New Orleans this year. So definitely this is something that's going to help a lot of people get into these conferences, because that's where you will be able to interact with a lot of PDs over there. They will be able to see for themselves, because I think by sitting next to the camera for just 5 to 10 minutes, it's very hard. It's very hard to decide that, do we need this person for the next 4 years? unless you have like a 270s or your CV is like so brilliant that they can't, oh my God, we can't let go of this person. Go to these conferences and try to interact with all the PDs and faculty, especially the places that you have signaled, because that's where you'll get most of the interviews from. Tell them that you have signaled the program. Tell them that you like this program. Like my program was very much stroke heavy. So I did tell them about, they asked me about my epilepsy stuff, but I also told them about the fact that I'm not just interested in epilepsy. I'm very much interested in stroke as well. So yeah, I think going into these conferences, making yourself research, making your research clinically relevant is the way to go.
Okay, I get it. So what you mean is that you do start with CDCs and meta-analyses, but later
Yeah.
on you should move on to,
Mhm.
submitting abstracts to conferences and, working with people across the globe and so stuff like that. So yeah, and as a meta-analyst who has been learning R for a while now myself, I totally get your perspective. And
Yeah.
so moving beyond, building the application itself, Dr. Waqar, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. So when evaluating programs, how did you determine which ones were the right fit for you beyond just, the academic strength or reputation?
Yeah, that's a great question, honestly, because the question of right fit doesn't come into play until you are in the middle of the or thick of the interview season. Until unless you have interviewed at 2 or 3 programs, you do not know that what a program looks like across the screen. Like Burhan mentioned, you can never know. I mean, within 5 or 10 minutes of an interview, you can never know if that is the place where you want to be for the next 4 years of your life. So the way I figured out, or the way I used to see a program, was honestly during the resident socials. I used to look how they are laughing. Is there a kind of a friendship between or among the residents? Do they know each other outside the hospital? Do they really care for each other? Or for example, if they are in between of an emergency, who do they call? Are they able to call their attending or not? Is there kind of a friendliness among the faculty and the residents, and again among the residents themselves? So these were the kind of green flags I was looking at, because for me, I did my internship for 1 year, and that made me realize that in order to be at a place for 4 years, you have to have good people around you. You cannot thrive at a place where you do not have good people, where you can ask questions without being judged, where you can be challenged, but in a very playful or a very mindful manner. Otherwise, I mean, residency itself is a very tough period of any doctor's life. So my priority was looking at the program in a way that I can be there for the next 4 years happily, not in a way where I just have to be there because I got matched there. So that was a kind of a priority I had in my mind when I was making my rank list. But again, there are other things that you have to look at. For example, the program I matched at, that was the smoothest interview I had, honestly, my entire season. There was this one guy in the panel who only asked me about my hobbies. So for example, I had written about that I love psychological thrillers and forensic documentaries. So we only talked about forensic documentaries for the entire next 25 minutes. He did not even ask me. In between the interview, I interrupted and asked him, "Do you have any question for me?" And he was like, "This is a question I have for you. So let's just keep talking about it." And I was honestly so worried that does he not like me? Does he didn't he see anything on my CV to talk about? And he's only talking about the forensic documentary that I have watched. So that was kind of a conversation that I was having. I was very scared, but I matched there. Honestly, I mean, that was so. These are the kind of interviews you have to look at. Do they like you as a person? Do they like you as a colleague, or are they only talking to you about their CV? Because there was this one program who only talked about the stuff on my CV, and I don't think I even got ranked there. So there are multiple factors you have to look at when you are making your rank list. And one of the things that I looked at was was there a friendly environment where I can thrive? Because for me, the environment where I can thrive is really important. Secondly, education for me is really important. I mean, I'm not the kind of a doctor who just want to become a doctor for the clinical experiences. I see myself in future going into academics and pursuing a PhD in neuroscience. So one of the things that I kept in my mind when I was making my rank list, that are the programs affiliated with neuroscience centers or not? Are their faculty really into academics or not? Are they heavy on education or not? So these were the kind of questions I always had in my mind. So finding the right fit is honestly, I mean, it's you know yourself better than anybody else. So for me, education was important, a thriving environment was important, friendliness was important. So these were the kind of things I looked at. So I would really say that, you know, as an applicant, you have to see yourself, you have to see how your interview went, how they liked you as a candidate. So all of these factors come into play when you are making your rank list. So I would say that do not rank the program based on where you think you should go, and you should, you know, rank it based on how you feel, where you can be most authentic, supported, and challenged for the next 4 years of your life.
All right, thank you for breaking down all of those factors. I think that adds a lot of clarity for applicants who are unsure of how to choose their programs. And that really brings together several important aspects of building a strong application, from personal statements to clinical experience, research, and even choosing the right programs. So taking this a step further, I'd now like to focus on the later stages of the process, particularly the interviews, the decision making, and what ultimately makes difference when it comes to matching. So, Dr. Rehan, coming back to you, you matched into your top ranked program and were the only IMG to match there. What factors made it your number one choice, and what do you think, like anything specific in your application or interviews that helped you secure that spot?
Okay, that's a good question. Honestly, I believe that when you get interviews, as IMGs, we have very less choices. So whatever interviews we get, we have to make them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. uh, for example, for everyone, I mean, Harvard is the number one choice, but not getting interview from there and ranking whatever you're getting. But alhamdulillah. So what I would say is that UMMC was definitely one of my top choices because I was super interested in stroke. I always mentioned it on my CV. I was doing this research position at the Department of Stroke of University of Michigan. So I did highlight a lot of stroke projects. I think ranking UMC higher for me, the personal decision was because of the stroke program. It's a really great stroke program. It's on stroke belt. There's this stroke belt where, you know, in US, the hospitals which are in those states, it says they receive higher stroke volume. So I just wanted to be like, you know, the kind of residence where I can see a lot of stroke cases. So for me, UMC was top choice because of the stroke and neurocritical care. They have great ICU. Secondly, I believe it's a very big academic center. They have their own student group, just like we have this group in Dow. They have their student group. They have their research going on. A lot of their faculty, you know, is involved heavily with AN, with other societies, and they give their residents a chance to attend those conferences and to do actively participate in research. But other than all of that, just like Mabel mentioned, that, you know, you have to sense that vibe. So when I was giving the interview, when I was interacting with the residents, I luckily knew some of the residents. Some of the residents were from AKU. So I did talk to them. I did reach out to them even after my interview. And I did ask them personally, you know, like, can you please guide me? How is the program? Because I don't know anyone in Mississippi. Can I settle there? Can I, like, you know, I have to spend 4 years of my life there, like, alone. So can I settle there? Are people nice? Are they welcoming? Are they accommodating? Are they going to help me? Or, like, you know, as an only IMG, I was also very scared that, you know, it's a non-IMG friendly program. So how if I start feeling dumb, like, you know, they have managed a lot of their own students. So even now I have this fear, what if I feel dumb? What if I don't know their system very well? You know, going from Pakistan, they have their own students joining their residency, so it's very easier for them, right? So we all have those fears, but keeping that aside, the things that I saw was that, you know, I want to end up being a very, very good stroke specialist. So I wanted that hands-on experience. And as much as I was talking to the residents, they were telling me that, okay, on the nights floors, on the emergencies and all, we are dealing with a lot of stroke cases. Like they told me, like, we are dealing with 25 some days on emergencies. That was great, right? So when you graduate, you feel like you are already a stroke specialist from these institutes, right? Or maybe epilepsy specialist, whatever you are interested in. So I think that was my primary factor. A lot of people also consider family, relatives, and everything. If you want to consider that, of course, put that first as well. I had family in Chicago, but I did not put that first because I could not get interviews from any of Chicago programs. Otherwise, I would have ranked that higher. So for me, I think where I want to end up, what I want to specialize in was the most decisive factor in ranking UMC higher. Just to mention that you asked about CV as well. So yes, I highlighted on my CV a lot of stroke things.
Right. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really insightful, especially in understanding how to approach the top program choices strategically. And that naturally brings us to another critical component of the application. Dr. Wasim, I'd like to bring you in here. What, in your experience, differentiates a strong personalized letter of recommendation from a generic one? And how can applicants, effectively build the kind of relationship with an attending that leads to such a letter?
So for the letter of recommendation, having it personalized does help, of course. See, the thing is, if someone's taking you as an observer, they are trying to make sure that you do get a good letter of recommendation from them. They are not trying to, make it difficult, especially if your preceptors are IMGs or they have been through the journey. So if you were someone who was a bad candidate to begin with, you were just making it tougher for them to do something that they were decided from the very start. So for the personalized letter of recommendation, contrary to what most people think or most people suggest, it's not the hardest thing in the world. Most of the people who are taking you, they will be very happy to help you out. The thing is to not make their jobs tougher. So for personalized letter of recommendation, like I said, keep the basics in mind. Secondly, for it to address things that you want them to address, make sure that you highlight your interest for your rotations. Like, for example, I'm not sure which specialty I want to do for. I'm not sure if I want to do stroke or epilepsy or neuromuscular, or even if I want to specialize. So I was very clear about that for me, the biggest priority right now is having a very good exposure in everything so that I would be very able to figure out this in the coming months. Secondly, be very honest about your CV, about the research. The problem with neurology is you do not have community programs. If this was an IM session, I would have said, score बुरा है तो community में apply कर दे, score अच्छा है तो academic में apply कर दे. That doesn't fit in neuro because neuro is almost heavily academic, except for very few community programs. Those have to be academic at some point in life because neuro and stroke and everything research plays a role. So make sure you're attending the one that you're going in and the one you're rotating with knows that you have research on your CV. Highlight it in front of them. Most of the time, they are very happy to take you over. They'll give you a project. And so I was able to continue research with my attending because he knew I was interested in research. And secondly, show them the work ethics. The problem is, and that is what was mentioned by the attending, people are very enthusiastic when they come in for observerships, but as soon as they leave, which is rightly so, they have their work, their ERAS application going on, they forgot about the observership, they forgot about the attending, they forgot about the projects or things that they ask them for, and then they do not get back to them. It creates a problem for them as well. So try, if you made a commitment to them, if you said, hey, I'm going to do this work, try doing that. Thirdly, when you are done with your rotations, make sure your entire notebook, highlight the points, highlight things that you felt like helped you stand out, highlight things that you believe you would not have seen somewhere else. And when you are emailing the preceptor for the letter of recommendation, mention those things and also attach your CV. This is safe to ensure that your letter of recommendation mentions all those things. Preceptors will forget. Honestly, it's okay. They have a lot going on during the day, so they'll forget what you saw. But if you make it easier for them to send in a small paragraph of what you saw, things that made you stand out, things that you learned from there, and also your CV, it's easier for them to write a letter of recommendation. Now, to stand out over here, there's something someone told me. I'm very good at designing. I have been designing posters since in the medical school. So I knew this is something everyone is doing. Everyone is sending their preceptors a letter. What I did was make a poster. I made an entire poster for the rotation that I did, mentioning what I saw, what made that rotation stand out for me, what the preceptor helped me, what clinical skills I built, and lastly, how they're going to help my journey. It was a very small poster, but all three of my preceptors appreciated it a lot. They found it very interesting and different than what everyone else is doing. So I believe that might have also played a very small role in getting a very good letter. And lastly, once you are done getting the letters, please do not forget your preceptors like they were nobody. Stay in touch. Tell them about your journey. If you're getting an interview from the place that you rotated at, if it's from their hospital, let them know. If it's from a different hospital, keep them updated. Don't bother them. Don't mass email them. If he's a Muslim or someone, wish them Eid and Ramzan. If they are not, wish them Christmas comes in December, wish them that. Stay in touch. Once the rank order list is due, tell them how many interviews you've got. It's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed of if there were 1 or 2 interviews, but let them know they are looking forward to it and that you ranked this program higher. If you committed to your attending that you're gonna rank their program higher, please do not go back on your commitments, even if you get a better interview. Please don't do that. That just sounds very condescending and make all of us look very bad. So let them know that these are the interviews. This is my priority to. If you believe, if you feel like taking their suggestions, you can also always ask for them. If you don't, that's okay. They are not expecting you to ask how you're going to rank your programs. And once you match, please, this should be the first one after your families to know that they played a very huge role in that. So the journey should not be just stopping at the letters, but keep that continued with them.
Right. So I think that's really valuable, especially about building genuine relationships for strong letters. And it also raises a key question for applicants here. So after putting together everything, how do you know when you're truly ready to apply? Dr. Kasi, turning to you, when did you personally feel that your application was ready to submit, and how can others determine when they're ready?
That's a great question. To be fair, you're never really ready. You have ticked all the boxes. Like, you have done all the observerships, you have done all the steps, you have done research, you have done everything. You have ticked all the boxes. But like deep inside, you have your heart speaks for you that I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, is the interviewer gonna like me? And like Mabel said that some of the interviews about her hobbies and didn't ask the random questions. It happened to me as well. I'm a big fan of cricket. One of my whole interview was on cricket, and when I came out of the interview, I was like, man, why is he interested in cricket? I mean, he should ask me why neurology, why our program and stuff like that. I mean, and this happened in this program of mine where I matched. So I think you need to tick all the boxes. That's the most important thing. You give your steps, you do your clinical part, make sure you don't have any gaps in your medical education or post-graduation. You need to make sure that you're clinically relevant. You need to make sure that your research is relevant. Give your exams, get good scores, because scores are important now. And because the scores are getting higher and higher. So the cutoff point has certainly gone way higher than it used to be a couple of years back. And yeah, just believing in yourself. Enjoy the moment, enjoy the interviews, talk about yourself, make sure that you know your CV. Don't come up with some random answers to, yes, I like neurology because this happened. Make sure that you talk about your CV. Yes, I like neurology because I have done this, and in this year, I have done this in this year, and I made sure that it's all about neurology. And second, I also like to talk about your personality. I think they are looking for your personality. They have seen your academics, they have seen your CV, they know, and that's the only reason why they have given you this interview. They don't want to know which research journal you have published in, or what scores you got, or what clinical things you have done and the cases you have seen. They might ask you, yes, tell me about an interesting case. But it's your personality that they want to see. If you're able to interact with the faculty members, if you're able to interact with the residents, that's the most important thing. In one of the interviews, one of the residents actually told me that I have a very good smile. To be very fair, and this is something that I was literally working on. Being able to present myself, that's the most important thing. If you're just sitting, you're anxious, and you're looking at the point, the person will be like, oh my God, the next 4 years, we are getting a ball of anxiety to us. So this is of utmost importance. Even if you are anxious, just fake it. It says like, fake it till you make it. It's a very common thing. Smile, enjoy the moment. To be very fair, there are not a lot of doctors who are able to sit in your position. There are not a lot of doctors who give step exams. There are not a lot of doctors who eventually end up getting interviews. The fact that you are getting this interview means that there is something in you that they have seen. So look up to yourself. Go and look into the mirror and tell yourself that, wow, I have this interview. They have seen something very special in me. That's the most important thing. When you have ticked all the boxes, my advice to everyone is go and enjoy the moment. Enjoy the interviews. Don't think this is the end of life. I mean, come on, it's not the end of life. If it's one interview can't decide how good of a doctor you're gonna be. Yes, your ambitions, your the dreams that you have might have hit hit a wall, but that doesn't have to mean this is the end. Just focus on how you can enjoy the moment, and then ask them. One of the all in all the interviews, I kept on asking them, is there any advice they can give me? And in the start, there was an advice. By the end, when I had most of the interviews I had given them, there was no advice. They were like, you have done everything that we could have ever thought of. Your personality is great. I was able to present my personality. I was able to present my CV. If they were asking about the research part, I knew everything about my CV. If they were asking about the strengths, and I'm going to mention this, bring them in any question. I used to bring them back to my strengths. That these are the 3 strengths that I have. If there was a question, okay, tell me about a case. I used to mention the case and then bring them back to the fact that this is the strength that I have. This made me excel in this case. So that's the most important thing. Talk about your strengths, talk about your CV, make sure that you know your CV. It's not, I mean, come on, if you talk about some volunteer work that you might have done or not, and or you just were standing there and you were part of the team, but you were not so involved in it, they're gonna know that you haven't done anything in it. Make sure that you know that if I'm adding something into my CV, it's something that I can talk about. They're gonna pick something. Like I'm gonna mention in my CV, I talked about one of I live in Quetta, so there is a polio program over here. People from Afghanistan actually come to Quetta a lot, so there is actually a polio program for there. I worked as a volunteer in that. They asked me a lot of my interviews was based on that polio program and how I was able to help them. So being able to understand your CV, being able to understand your strengths, and at the end of the day, just enjoy it. You're, I think, one of a million that is who is sitting in this interview, talking to these people. Just enjoy your moment, and hopefully, for everyone, you are gonna match. If you are in this process, you will match, no matter what. You have given your steps. You're not gonna. Nothing will stop you. Maybe this year, maybe 1 year is not for you. The other year will be yours. The next year will be yours.
For sharing that. I think that
Sure.
really puts the timeline into perspective. And also thank you for sharing about your interview experience and all the some of the strategies that you had, and also giving us hope for the future IMGs to match. Now, you talked about interview, right? So I'll just build on that interview experience. And Dr. Waqar, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So given that you experienced in-person interviews, which are less common, how did you think that influenced your approach? And how can applicants present themselves authentically while still maintaining a strong professional impression?
Yeah, so look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat because the in-person interview for me was incredibly intimidating. Also, given for the fact that it was my first ever interview for the season. So I had never taken an interview for a medical residency, so I had no clue how to talk about, what to talk about, and how to present myself. So for in-person interviews, you have to have a very different kind of preparation because you are in kind of a 3D world. Here, I'm kind of in a 2D world where you are only looking at me, not beyond my shoulders, right? But while you are in that building, you carry a certain amount of weight on your shoulders because the moment you step out of your car, from the moment you enter from that door, you are being evaluated. The smile on your face, your hairstyle, your hand gestures, how you interact with your colleagues, how you are interacting with the PC, how you're interacting with the other supporting staff, that all of this really counts, to be honest. So I would talk about the kind of a personality you can carry is, you just be yourself. Just be true to yourself and be authentic, because they can see through you when you are faking an accent, you're faking a personality, you're trying to be somebody else. I mean, they are not kids. They have seen millions of people in their lives and then know exactly who you are being right now. So for example, when I was at the pre-interview dinner, when I was with the residents, so I was being myself. They were I always have a very strict no mask policy. Whatever I talk about, I talk in it in a very natural manner. So for example, when I talk about neurology, my friends tell me that whenever I talk about neurology, I have a kind of a glitter in my eyes because I always wanted to be a neurologist. So you can see it in me when I'm talking about something passionately, when I'm talking about something which I really mean. So, for example, there was this one resident, and I'm not kind of into zodiac signs, but I kind of have some information about it, what a Capricorn is, what an Aries is, and what etc. So during the pre interview dinner, there was this one resident who said that you are an earth sign, and then she jokingly said that I'm also an earth sign. So I was like, no, you are not an earth sign. You're a typical fire sign. Now I never knew her. I never talked to her before, but we only talked about it for the next 10 minutes, and it was the most random topic you can never prepare for your life for in your life, right? So these are the kind of conversations you have to have when you are attending an in-person interview. Then again, on the interview day, when I was talking to PD, the PD was was a Dow graduate. So we continued our session for 35 minutes. To be honest, our session had to be for 25 minutes. But you know what we talked about in those 35 minutes? I mentioned subtly that I am a Urdu poetry fan. Now he talked about Urdu poetry for 5 minutes. Honestly, I did not even have anything on my mind what I can talk about exactly. And similarly, for example, I talked about my grandmother. He talked about my grandmother for the next 5 minutes. I talked about how introvert I am. He mentioned how introvert he is. And then we talk about introversion and being kind of how reserved you can be. So, these are the kind of a very genuine and authentic conversations that you can have on your interview day, because they really want to know you as a colleague. They do not want to know you as a interview candidate who is only there to share their clinical experiences, who are only there to tell them what they have on their CV. For example, the PD was an epileptologist, but and I had attended a 2-month epilepsy course in Cleveland. I mentioned about it, but he was never interested in that course. And he never asked me what my fellowship options would be, whether I want to be an epileptologist or not. He only wanted to talk about my transition from civil hospital to Aga Khan University. He only wanted to talk about how I transitioned. How was the transition for me? Was I able to adjust in that very opposite kind of an environment, because coming from a public sector hospital to a private sector hospital, how was the transition for me? So he only wanted to see how or who I am exactly and how I behave in a certain situation, or he just wanted to see the authenticity in me. So these are the kind of things I would say carry your own personality. Like Arbab said, they want to see, they have already seen your CV. They have already seen who you are as an academic person. What you can achieve, let's say 260 on a step 2, 270 on a step 2. They do not want to talk about it. They do not want to talk about your research. Honestly, many of the people I interviewed to, they were not ever interested in the research or any other volunteer experiences I had written on my CV. They only wanted to talk about the irrelevant stuff which made me human being, and they wanted to just have a conversation about that particular topic only. So in-person interviews are entirely different. So if any of the candidates in the future are going for an in-person interview, you have to prepare separately for it. You cannot say that I prepared a certain answer for a virtual interview, so I can give the same answer to for an in-person interview. Similarly, I mean, there are lots of things. Your body language, it is kind of a silent CV. How you carry yourself, how you smile, how you are interacting with your colleagues, because they are kind of subconscious things that you do and you do not even know about it. For example, there is somebody sitting beside you. There are times we are lost in our own thoughts. We are thinking about our next interview slot and we are not interacting with the colleague. We forget to ask how their interview went or whatever. I mean, these are kind of subtle things which you have to keep in mind when you are taking an in-person interview, which you do not even think about when you are taking a virtual interview, right? So my experience for the in-person interview, I would say that it was entirely different. And given also that it was my first ever interview of the season, so I actually took a lot of time to prepare for it. And my pre-interview dinner really helped me out, because the residents made me comfortable. They told me about the program. They told me how the panel would be, how the setting would be. There are 8 candidates, where they are from, and everything. I mean, you met them already a day before the interview, so you got pretty comfortable. So, but obviously, coming from Pakistan, attending an in-person interview at a program where you have not done any observership, where you are only flying to for 4 days for an interview, so that is a completely different experience, and you have to honestly prepare yourself completely differently than you prepare yourself for other interviews. So my advice would be authentic, be yourself, and do not try to fake anything, like literally anything, not even a smile at this point, because they can see the wrinkles on your face when you smile. They can see that you are not smiling genuinely, right? So this is a place where you cannot fake anything, because they will see through you. So yeah, it's intimidating, but at the end of the day, if you prepare for it rightly, you can pass it flying like with flying colors. Yeah.
All right, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really great perspective, especially in today's evolving interview landscape. Now we're, quite reaching towards the end of the session. Final question to Dr. Rehan. So, Dr. Rehan, you have a strong research profile with, multiple publications. So, I wanted to ask, how intentional were you in building this, and at what point did you realize that research would be a key strength in your application?
Okay, that's a good question. So for research, I would say stop treating research as a checklist that you just have to, check on and you have to do it. For example, for me, I never decided to go for USMLE during my med school, but I was doing research like very actively. I was always involved in research because I wanted to do research. And for me, purpose of doing research was a bit different. I wanted to make connections. I wanted to be connected with my seniors, with people who were already in US or who were in UK. I wanted to be in touch with them. And I found that research was one of the best ways to do that. For example, if I have an idea, I would approach my senior with this thought that, I have this idea, I think we should work on it. If he's a cardiologist, I will make a connection with him, right? And if he's a neurologist, I will make a connection with a neurologist. So that was the main purpose for me to do research, rather than like just building a portfolio of 100 researches. The people, I know students, what they are doing right now, like, having 100 publications and writing them. For example, for me, what my mentor said at the time of my application, I had around 60 researches, but my mentor said to write only 25. Like, he was very, very strict about it. He was like, you're only going to write like 20 to 25 in your CV, because they don't care. Like, they don't want a researcher. Because see, even when I wrote like 25 researches, all they were asking was, how are you able to do all of these researches? Because there is a difference between Pakistani students and between US students. They need a whole research year to do these amount of publications. अगर आप पाकिस्तानी medical student हो तो आप classes नहीं attend करते, आप bunk करते हो और आप पूरा दिन RH में बैठते हो और आप जो है वो कुछ भी नहीं करते, इसलिए आपकी 60 publications हो जाती हैं. लेकिन when they see these many researches on your CV, it's kind of a red flag as well कि इतनी researches कैसे हो गई with your med school और अभी आप fresh grad करके निकले हो, right? So this also raises a question. So I feel like students need to, आजकल के जो लोग हैं उनको थोड़ा सा ये चीज समझनी चाहिए कि having 100 researches और वो भी useless researches is of no good at all. Just do 10 research. अगर आप 10 भी कर लोगे और अच्छी meaningful research कर लोगे जिसके बारे में आप बात कर सकते हो. For example, I wrote those 25 researches, but no one talked about them. There was only one research that I was doing at University of Michigan, जो मेरी stroke की research थी, जो मैं बड़े-बड़े doctors के साथ physically कर रही थी, जैसे अरबाब ने mention किया. तो वो रिसर्च थी जिसके बारे में सबने बात की, और वो जो 25 मेटा एनालिसिस थी वो साइड में थी, उसके बारे में किसी ने बात नहीं की. हाँ, ये क्वेश्चन जरूर पूछा कि आपने इतनी रिसर्चेस कैसे कर ली, या आप जो है वो मतलब आपने कोई रिसर्च ईयर दिया था. वी कैन नॉट सी ऑन योर CV, सो बी मेंटली प्रिपेयर्ड इफ यू आर राइटिंग दीज मेनी रिसर्चेस ऑन योर CV. and you don't need to. And when the question comes कि कब start करनी चाहिए, I feel like the purpose of doing research should be to learn and to do, research is something part of academic medicine, so you should be more focused on कि अच्छा यार ये एक part है medicine का और ये मुझे आना चाहिए, rather than कि मुझे अपनी CV पे डालना है इसलिए मुझे research करनी है. तो अगर आप research ये सोच के करते हो कि अच्छा मुझे network बनाना है, मुझे बड़े बड़े लोगों से बात करनी है, which is a good option, right? नेटवर्क करने के लिए अच्छी चीज है रिसर्च सीखने के लिए अच्छी चीज है, एक स्किल है, आपको आनी चाहिए, आपको करनी चाहिए, बट डोंट डू इट जस्ट फॉर द सेक कि मुझे यूएसएमएल करना है, मुझे पब्लिकेशंस चाहिए, मुझे सीवी पे डालनी है. आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट आई वुड से.
Right. So I think that was big clarification, especially to those who are, chasing after publication as just, merely a number. So yeah, I think that was a good insight into that. Now, as we have as we are done with almost all the questions, I'd like to wrap up the session. So thank you so much to all of our speakers for sharing such thoughtful, honest, and incredibly valuable insights. And once again, congratulations to all of you on your remarkable achievements. Your journeys are truly inspiring. I think today's session really highlighted not just what it takes to match, but also how different paths, whether recent graduates or those with longer journeys, can all lead to success with the right strategy and the consistency and the mindset. So we hope this discussion serves as a helpful resource for students and applicants as they navigate through their own journeys toward the match. And just before we conclude, I'd like to ask, do any of our speakers have any final thoughts or anything that they'd like to add here?
I have an advice that I received from a mentor, and pretty much everyone gave that advice: be yourself. Now, the problem is, if you have watched B99, Jake Peralta was, as Jake Peralta once said, they said me, be yourself. What garbage advice is this? So everyone tells you to be yourself, but no one tells you how. So the easiest way to go around is ask everyone else around you. So for example, when I was writing a personal statement, I did not write it myself, in the sense that I did not come up with the idea on my own. I went to 5 different people and asked, now don't go to your siblings, they're going to tell you you are dustbin. That's on me. That's not going to be on me or anyone. Go to random people. Ask people who are not related to you, and how would they define you? My personal statement mentioned chai. If you spend a day with me, you would be like, pagal aura the saal mein sab chai peeti hai. So it was very easy for everyone else to catch on. You literally just talk about chai like for half an hour when you were sitting with us. So, and in most of my interviews, at least one interviewer asked me, what is different about your chai and how do you make it? So if you want to be yourself, the best advice is go talk to people. Ask them, how would you define Ahmed? I am Ahmed. How would you define Ahmed? How is it that Ahmed is different from, let's suppose, Sakina? How is Ahmed different from Javeria? What makes you Ahmed? Now, everyone is human. Everyone has 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, and everyone can talk. And honestly, once you clear a certain stage, all of us have good CVs and all of us have good interview skills. All of us can talk really nicely. What makes me stand out? So go and talk to people and ask, go to your mentors, go to your preceptors, go to, come to random people who know you and ask them, what can I do? What helps me define me? And that's the advice that, like, I really like Mabel's advice that be yourself. That is what you are supposed to do when you are trying to be yourself. Go talk to people and then see what helps you define as you.
Okay, thank you so much for touching on that. Actually, yeah, that's a good topic, I must say. And so being yourself, so, what makes you, you. And to find that is, just as you said, go to people who would not be biased about you and openly share how they feel, in their true sense about you. Anything else anyone else would, like to add or?
Yeah, I want to add on something. So I want to say that it's easier to get lost among the numbers in the competition during this entire match season, because you have so many amazing and brilliant candidates that are competing against you. But again, you have to look at your own unique journey, what makes you stand out, and you have to see what makes you unique and what makes you you. So again, like I did not have any strong networking throughout this match process. I am the first generation doctor doctor. I'm a typical introvert. Networking to me sounds painful, honestly. Talking to other people, irrelevant. मतलब आप किसी काम के लिए बात नहीं किए तो आप, for an introvert it's like a kind of a pain that you just have to go and socialize with them, right? So I had to come out of my comfort zone and network for this particular reason only. But again, this entire journey is kind of a marathon, and you have to stay very persistent, and you have to stay very disciplined throughout this journey. And you have to, keep your head up and chin up throughout the silences. For example, when you're cold emailing your mentors for your observerships, you have, if they are not replying you for once, or if one or two people do not reply you, that's not the end of the world. You have to keep on doing whatever you are doing, because you should have one goal in your mind, that you have to get matched, and until you do get matched, you should not stop, because there is nothing that should be nothing that should stop you. And you should know that you will eventually find a place where you truly belong. So just continue on, no matter how many hurdles or obstacles you face, no matter how many silences you face throughout this journey, you just have to continue on until you match. I mean, that one email, that congratulations, you have matched, until you have gotten that one email, you should never stop. No matter how much difficult this journey gets, no matter how many hurdles or obstacles you face, you should never ever stop. That's my advice to all the applicants that will be applying for the next cycle or in future.
All right, thank you for sharing the great piece of advice. So anything else before we end the session, or should we just end it here?
I would just say one thing, that I have seen this culture recently in Dow students and in other med students as well, that they are hiding stuff, and there's a conspiracy going on that ke agar 6 न्यूरोलॉजी के एप्लीकेंट्स हैं, उसमें से एक के पास अच्छा स्कोर है, तो दे फील थ्रेटेंड बाय देम. व्हाट आई हैव लर्नड फ्रॉम दिस होल जर्नी फ्रॉम माय ओन मैथ साइकिल इज दैट इफ यू वर्क टुगेदर, दैट्स एक्चुअली सो मच ईजियर. बिकॉज आई रिमेंबर बीइंग कनेक्टेड टू मेबल, वी यूज्ड टू टॉक अबाउट, ओके तुम्हारा ये इंटरव्यू हो गया, मुझे क्वेश्चंस बता दो. हम एक दूसरे से क्वेश्चंस शेयर कर रहे होते थे लिटरली. I'm friends with Sumaya for last 10 years, so we used to talk, or we all were neurology applicants. We did not feel like, okay, इसको ये बात बता देंगे तो ऐसा हो जाएगा. जो आपकी स्पॉट है, जो आपको मिलनी है, वो आपको मिलके रहेगी. But it's so much easier if you work together, if you share stuff with each other, कि okay, ये न्यू प्रोग्राम्स है, मैं अप्लाई कर रही हूँ, तुम भी अप्लाई कर दो. इससे आपका कुछ नहीं चला जाएगा. या अगर आपने किसी की इंटरव्यू में हेल्प कर दी, अगर आपने किसी भी कुछ चीज बताने में हेल्प कर दी, तो इससे आपका स्पॉट नहीं छिन जाएगा. ये बहुत बड़ी एक अजीब सी चीज है जो मेड स्टूडेंट्स में अभी बहुत ज्यादा हो रही है, कि सीक्रेसी और चीजें छुपाना, और यहाँ तक कि उसको ना पता चल जाए. इस माइंडसेट से आप चलेंगे तो फिर आप बहुत पीछे रह जाएंगे. और अगर आप दूसरों की हेल्प करके चलेंगे, एक टीम की तरह चलेंगे, तो इट्स ईजियर फॉर यू, इट्स ईजियर फॉर एवरीवन. सो दैट्स समथिंग दैट आई वुड लाइक टू एडवाइस ऑन.
All right, thank you so much for that. I think just like the saying goes, sharing is caring. So, right. Do we have any final words, or just? I think we should end the session here if we have nothing to add. All right then. Thank you so much again to all of you for taking out the time to join us for this session. And I know how much busy you guys are with all the visa process and everything else that you have going on in your life right now. And to our viewers, if you like this video, we really hope that you find it useful and you find it insightful. Just keep following us for more content like this, and we'll just end the session here. Thank you all again. Allah Hafiz.